In these seats, I'll be engaging my guests on various topics about the cultural war in the immigrant home and how to intervene. My name is Dr. Cynthia Adom-Potufi. I will be your host for the show, and you are watching Battleground. This is the parents' edition of the Battleground. In this episode, we're going to be looking at parental authority and youth autonomy. I'm really excited about this topic, and I have an amazing set of panelists to help me dive into this conversation. Wonderful fathers and mothers. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Belinda Aponte, mother of two.
Patrick Upon, father of 3, 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
Irene Quatson, mother of 4.
Awesome.
Paul O'Day, father of 3 boys.
Awesome.
And I am Jennifer Megache, mother of 3.
Great. Thank you so much for joining in the Battleground. And I hope and I know that you're excited, as I am. Let's dive into the conversation, but thank you so much once again for coming over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So the first topic or subtopic that I wanted us to look at is the fact that a lot of young people complain they don't have a say at home. They feel they don't have a voice. Even though they live in the home with us as parents, we've heard the voices of the young people. They don't have a say. Do you agree or disagree? We just want to hear your perspective and take on it. And any of you can go.
All right. I believe for the most part, we do give them a voice. But as to whether they call that a voice or not is a little kind of dicey. We don't know whether they see that as a voice. If we are having a conversation and you bring your ideas and it's taken, or we just say, this is a good suggestion but cannot be taken now, we can look at it again. I believe that is a voice, but not that we've taken it at the time that you wanted us to take it. So no, I believe maybe we not taking it on the spot and adding it to whatever we are discussing as a family makes them feel that they don't have a voice. But in most cases, we do give them a voice. And also, we try to also explain why certain things they bring up are not taken as they bring them up.
Thank you so much, Mami Belinda. So I think you mentioned 2 things. And the first one really intrigued me because you said you try to give them, or we try, I'm also a parent, we try to give them a voice. As to whether they see it as a voice, I really want us to reflect on that. Maybe what does giving somebody a voice even mean? Could it be that in our culture, and by culture I mean our immigrant culture, giving a voice is understood in a certain way that is probably different from what a voice is in the mainstream Western culture? And maybe that is why we think we are doing it, but maybe some of them don't see it as they having a voice or enough voice in the home. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I will make this point like establishing healthy relationship with them. If you establish healthy relationship with your children, I think there's that freedom that they can get to you all the time and then they become your friend. That is what I do. You have that freedom with them. You involve them too in any activity in the house. So the interaction is good. They can always say whatever they want to say to you. And then there is no anything like apprehensive in the house or anything like that. That is what I do with my kids. They are free to come to me. I'm on the agreeing side, and their dad is on the the disagreeing side. So
opposites attract.
they are free to, come to me, have any talk with me, and there's no problem. So I think you should have established healthy relationships.
So you agree, you believe that kids should have a voice. But maybe again, let's go back to the question that we posed, that if they have to have a voice, as Mama Irene mentioned, is it that they feel they don't have a voice because of the cultural difference? Mommy Jennifer, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I believe so. I think because of the cultural differences, we think their voice doesn't count, or because they are children, what they are saying doesn't make sense, or it doesn't involve them. But most of the time, we forget that some of the things that these children know, we parents don't, when they can give us advice that will help us. And also, they are in the house, so whatever decision that we make, we should involve them. So when they come to us, at least spend that little time to hear them what they have to say, and then explain to them why maybe at that moment you cannot give them the voice. Maybe you are busy, so let us talk about it later on. They don't know that at least you value what they have to say to you. So that's my contribution. I think if we parents will understand that, we'll help these children.
Thank you for all the perspectives. And I think what I'm getting from all the discussion is that, number one, I mean, young people should have a voice in the home, just like, adults have a voice. Because we are all human beings, and everybody, like, freedom of speech anyways, so it's a fundamental human right. But as I think Mama Belinda mentioned something, that we give the kids a voice in the home. But we are here representing like different types of parenting, right? So as a parent, as another parent telling you that give your child a voice. Maybe we are having family discussions. It's okay to let the kid weigh in their suggestion. And you're free to take it or not, but as a child to know that it's not everything that you bring on the table that may necessarily be taken. And I think the most important thing is both parties understanding why you didn't even take the younger person's perspective and vice versa. So thank you so much. Kids have a voice, adults have a voice. I want us to connect it to one thing. I think maybe in certain instances, the reason why young people feel they don't have a voice is what we term talking back, which is like almost a taboo in the immigrant culture. You can't talk back. If you talk back, the next flight to Africa, you are on it. Even if it's $2,000, they will ship you out immediately. So you can go and learn some common sense back home. That's like what a lot of parents do. And I think that is why there's that posture of, we don't have a voice. Because if you can't talk back, then, where is your voice? Because usually you don't initiate the conversation, right or wrong. Like, in the immigrant home, you don't usually initiate the conversation. So if mommy and daddy starts the conversation and you can't respond or talk back, then where is the voice? So that is what I want us to look into. Number one, what is talking back? I think Uncle Ade wanted to say something.
Yeah, just from the previous point, I think from the culture we came from, we have been trained so that even when we are not giving them a voice, we are not even conscious that we are denying them a voice, because what we may seem like a voice, from where we come from, it's almost like the child is being disrespectful. So consciously, psychologically, we've been set up and trained that way so that even when we are not giving them a voice, we think we are. So in that sense, when they talk back, then already our tentacles are up.
It gets raised to like
raised to just, push back. Because, to start with, we think we are giving them a voice. But compared to what they see happening in their culture from their friends, it's no voice at all. So anything they say, in a sense, becomes what they see as talking back from us.
Interesting. So, see, Uncle Ode says what we consider to be giving them a voice, what they see outside to them, that voice is like 20%. And their friends are seeing or experiencing 100%. So the question is, how come I can't even get to like 80%? Like, let's strike a balance here. you cheat me a little bit and like give me 80%, and they feel they are probably getting 20%. I don't want it to win.
And at times, these kids decide not to have a voice at all because maybe on one or two occasions they have been denied.
Silence.
So they say, well, I know my daddy, my mommy will not listen to whatever I say. So they decide not to involve in anything at all. Not to even open their mouth, not even come in, because after all, whatever I will say, my mother will take it, my father will take it.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective, and that is so true. It could even be that mommy, daddy have read two words at all, and they have decided to give you a little bit of voice, and you are in your room thinking, no, we are in our old world, you know. So even if I bring my perspective, mommy and daddy will not listen. So I think as young people, I think the suggestion coming from the floor is sometimes let's give our parents another chance. Maybe it could be that previously you tried it, they shut you down like something, you're like, me, I'm never gonna talk again. Like, I'll just look at them. And that's what young people do. Sometimes when you talk to them, or we talk to them and they are quiet and they go to the room, we think we've listened. They just tuned out, like, I don't have anything to say, I mean, never mind, and then they walk away. So let's give our parents another chance.
Sorry. And one thing I also want to add is that talking back denotes the voice and the attitude that comes with the conversation. Communication is done with body language as well. So if a parent, before a parent will say you are talking back, and I believe I'm a parent who laughs and wants to do everything with my children, but if I see the body language is not right, we have been given that authority to guide you. We have a responsibility to shape your life. So if we are talking and you are talking back and it's not in the right tone with the right attitude, we have the God-given right to help you realize where you are coming from is not a little bit acceptable. And as parents, I'm saying that parents, we should have a way. Sometimes when we see that, it makes us so upset, and the way we respond to them brings a lot of chaos in the house, and it leads to unnecessary arguments. So what we need to do as parents is when they talk back, we have to take a deep breath and then be able to reflect, sit them down and be able to have a dialogue that, okay, this thing you said was right by the way you presented it. It helps them because besides having them in the home, we are training them to be responsible members of the society.
Right.
So if we tend to be like, it's within here and this is the way we want to do things, when they go out, they are limited of so many things. They are not able to actually relate well with the outside world, and that is not what we want to do. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians, I think 13 verse 10, Paul says God has given us that power to build and not to destroy. So if we have that power as parents, the wisdom God has given us, we need to use it to be able to help our young ones to be able to learn things that will help them to be people who are well accepted in the society.
Okay, we as parents, from where we are coming from, the reason why we raise an eyebrow when a child talks back is part of our training and bringing up our children. We want them to be more respectful when they step out there. I know there was a forum that a Black American woman and a Ghanaian man have a child. And that child had the opportunity to have a forum like this. And then she was asked to choose between the two. I mean, which culture that she yelled more to. And to our surprise, she chose the Ghanaian culture. And then we all were amazed about that. Because she said that we are more, well-trained, more disciplined, and she would rather yield to the African culture more than the American culture, because even when you see an adult, then they don't greet an adult, but we do, and that it's like a training that parents will compel you to greet when you see any adult.
Even if
either
you
your
don't know
parent
them.
or not your parent. You need to greet them, and then
And everyone is your uncle.
and everyone is your uncle, everyone is your aunt. And then she was expressing for us to know that, okay, so she will yield to our culture. So it's all about training
Right.
and being respectful when you step out there.
Thank you so much. So just to clarify, I think Mama Irene's point is that, I mean, every culture is unique and different in its own way. Not to say that the Western culture, like every aspect of it, is like, you know, ours is better than the Western culture. No, I think even within the Western culture, some people uphold to strict, parenting, where they put in you like respect for people, etc. But I think we generalize them here. And I think that is why, as immigrants, there are certain values in our cultures that if we pass on to our children, it would help a lot to, develop them into respectful, responsible people in the future. Thank you so much,
Can I
Mama.
add this?
Yes, please.
Talking about our culture, some of these cultures also made us timid. Yeah, back home and even here. If you want to bring the child in that way, the person becomes timid. We were trained in such a way that, as Mama is saying, you can't talk back to people, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. And some of us became timid, and certain things that we should have done. We couldn't. Expressing ourselves at certain places, we couldn't, because if I do that and the person goes home and tells my mother, my father, I'll be in trouble. And that carries some of us on until certain time that maybe with the help of God we're able to come out of that jungle.
So Elder, thank you for that. So, I'm very happy you brought that jungle idea. So you know, not jungle in a jungle, but we were kids.
Yeah.
You could tell you were locked in a certain way. Growing up, if you see that your dad has a visitor, you dare not even walk through the living room. The stare alone is enough for you to know that go back to where you came from. So, Elder, how do we prevent our children from, landing in the same jungle that, by the grace of God, we emerge from? That's what I want us to look at. Because here we are in the Western world. We have come from our immigrant, communities. We've come with our cultures. Coming to America hasn't changed that. Maybe you are gradually changing, but you still have what you grew up with. And now our children have aspects of that, and now they know Western culture. So now it's like two worlds. So it's the Western world, and then what? The immigrant world. And it can be very confusing for them. So how do we help them maneuver through where we are not pushing them in the jungle? At the same time, we are not telling them you meet an elderly person and just wave with your left hand. We have values. So how do we pass on our values to them without sounding imposing or without making them feel as if you can't talk back? I think that's the key thing. They're okay with our values. It's just the way we communicate with them. So I don't mean to put you on the spot. Anybody at all can respond.
Let me say something if anybody has. What we have to, since we are not saying this to only Ghanaian community or immigrants over and to the whole world or to whoever wants to listen to this, what we have to do is maybe we have to balance our culture and then the culture that we are in. Even if we are not in America and we are either in another part of the world, we have to balance our cultures with it and see and make sure we are not infringing on one of the cultures. Okay, we are not looking down upon the other side, but we bring the two together and try as much as possible to fit the child in, into that two types of culture, blend them together, together so that we will not be one-sided or we will not be one-sided.
Thank you.
Somebody has to
Thank you. Before you come in, that is true. That's what I mean. When you come and live in America, even though you you came from maybe Africa, you come live here for 10 years or so. When you go back and you're not careful with your mannerism, they'll say you're too low.
Exactly.
And who do you think you are? You're acting as if we weren't even here with you. So then they feel you are, looking down on them. So I think it's a great perspective, Elder, you're bringing. The need to blend the two cultures. Mama, okay. Elder,
okay. Yeah, two things. I think that talking back, sometimes the language where we are coming from, we take certain language out of context. I remember my son was 7 years old and he said, "Daddy, don't be silly."
Oh.
That was a big no-no in Ghana.
That's no.
But then if you think about it, he was just trying to make a point and expressing himself. So we have to do self-reflection to see some of this context by which we define what we call them talking back. And then in the area of this culture we're talking about, for instance, my wife is Zambian, I'm Ghanaian, and you'll be amazed.
So you are living in three worlds.
Exactly. So even dealing between the Ghana and the Zambian itself, that is a challenge by itself, because just getting Ghanaians to understand, here you're dealing with somebody who is not speaking Tree, not from your background. That in itself is a challenge. So once we do these self-reflections, what should stand out is love. So that the children will realize that, look, I want to understand where you are coming from, the culture within which, and as our daddy said, to be able to blend or try to accommodate each culture within the context we're discussing it.
Thank you so much. A blended approach. And also we as parents knowing what even the words and terminologies mean. I mean, we've yelled on our kids for no reason in many instances. We thinking they've used in an inappropriate way, but if we go back to the dictionary, we realize that it's simple but something small.
Yeah, like nonsense. They will tell you, "Oh, Mom, what you're saying doesn't make any sense."
Doesn't make any sense.
It means that they don't understand what you're saying. It's not, we call it insult. He's not insulting you, he's not disrespecting you. He's just telling you that they don't understand what you are saying.
I don't get it.
Right, I don't get it. But we don't, in Ghana or in where we come from, when you mention this is nonsense, oh my God.
Yeah, it's an insult.
Then you are doomed forever. You are the most disrespectful person in the world. So these are the things we come across as we interact with our children here. It's a challenge, but I know we can overcome as we all educate ourselves. So it boils down to education. Right. So we all have to educate ourselves. We are here. We came from somewhere. There are things that are very good. And my dad told us when we came here that this is a land of opportunities and troubles. So when you come here, you have to take the opportunities and make sure you don't get yourself in the troubles. Oh, wow. So there is always the blend, but you have to take the good ones. Right. In every culture, we have the good and the bad. Right. So when we are talking about blending, we should look at those that will help our children. You don't want your child to go out and people will say, "Oh, we do see kids who don't respect at all." It's the plain word. You don't need to be told. The way they carry themselves tells you they have no respect for the elderly. And that's something we don't want to see our kids. We want to see kids who are very responsible, respectful, and have a very decent life. So everybody will see you as, "Oh, whose child is this?" And then you feel so proud of yourself. That is what we want to get. We don't want to have the children who say, "Oh, there is this particular child that I met, the pastor is a pastor's daughter. And every minute you speak with somebody, "Oh, this girl doesn't respect anyone." And if you observe, you see that there are some that strains of that disrespectful attitude in her. So that's not what we want to see. And we are not saying don't talk. Please talk. But talk the way we would also feel like we are a little bit respected. We have that authority. And it's not like we are going to control you, but we want you to be people who knows how to communicate, interact, and then build your we call it social skills. Right. You have good social skills. So wherever you go, people will see and admire you. In workplaces, you go to college, and then after college you want to work. A lady went to an interview, and when they were interviewing her, The words that came out of her mouth, they were like, okay, we'll call you later. You see, that's not what we want to, because it's not her fault. She was growing up, there was no parental guidance, and she grew up to become what she has become. And then this thing, instead of taking her, they said, we will talk to you, we will call you later, and she never got a job. So we don't want you to go through all those things. We want you to have a very decent and a meaningful life, and people will see you and say, yes, this is a lady. Husbands are there, wives are there. There are people that you don't even want your child to interact with. You don't want them to be friends with because of the way they carry themselves. So please, we love you, and you are very much accepted, but we want you to grow up to be those men and women that everybody will look at and say, oh, this is a wonderful person.
Thank you so much, Mama Belinda. So, I mean, as a young person, I think these voices are the voices of parents, letting you know that feel free to talk and just express yourself in a way that wouldn't be condescending or make parents feel as if they don't know anything. Sometimes that's how it comes across in some ways, and that's why they hit back like a tiger. If you hit at a tiger, it's just gonna back at you. Not to say that's the right way, but it's just human instinct. But as parents listening in, these are your colleagues telling you or letting all of us know that it is okay to allow your kids, the freedom to express themselves. Obviously, guiding them so that there wouldn't be that room for disrespect, dishonor. And as young people, know that the intention of parents, it's always good, like always good to help groom you into the wonderful child or adult that God has purpose for you to be. We'll be wrapping up soon, but I want us to look at this issue, which is like trending. Let me put it that way. So let's talk about our kids who are done with college, right? Sometimes when they are like in high school or they are in college, it's like they are kids. I provide for you, I do everything for you. But sometimes they finish college and they come home. Maybe it's not time for marriage, or they want to go back for their master. So one young lady mentioned that, I feel like I'm a child even though I'm of age. So the young people feel maybe they are 23, 24, thereabouts. They still feel parents treat them as kids. And one young lady was telling me, my mom would ask me, have you eaten? What would you eat? Have you taken a shower? You see how funny it sounds. Mom and dad feel as if they are expressing love, but the child also feels like, you think I can't find food to eat or take a shower? That's same autonomy and freedom and and all of that. So I just want us to reflect a little bit that as parents, how should we or how do we differentiate between how we relate with the youngest kids we have and those that are kind of becoming of age. By becoming of age, I mean almost close to getting married.
From my perspective, I would say that when they attain that age, let them become your friend, your best friend. So you can, knock at the door and go to his room, her room, and then have a talk, have a conversation, chat with them. Bring something up that they will contribute. Like I know my son, he doesn't speak Twi very well, but I'll just pop to his room and then start speaking Twi to him. Then he'll start laughing. That opened the way for me to, have that interaction with them. So as soon as they attain that age, try and take them as your friend.
So you mentioned something that you knock on the door and you go in. One complaint that comes a lot is sometimes a child is 23, 25, a boy or a girl, parents don't even care. By the time you realize, Pammy, are you there? By the time you realize your door is wide open, whether you just finished taking a shower, whether you are on the phone, whatever you are doing, no privacy. So I want us to, we are not deviating from the topic, but I want us to just touch on all these things. So I think Mama Irene said, take the child as your friend. And I even want to add that, the child should even be your friend, even at a younger age. And then it transitions into that. Otherwise, if we've not even cultivated that relationship, at that point it becomes difficult. But as Mama Irene said, it's even intensifies because you're not even respecting the abuse more. But yeah, I'll allow anyone else to.
Yeah, I will jump in over here. Like even yesterday, I went to work and my son picked me up. He's 29. And I just asked him, are you guys okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He was 30 this year.
Oh,
and I
wow.
said, have you eaten? You guys have eaten? And he's like, Mom. You know, so it's just a typical example of that. We still see them as our babies. Even though they are grown, we see them, they are grown, they are working and everything, but we still see them as the little baby that we carry. So it's like you are still protecting them. Want to make sure that they are okay. And like what Auntie Irene said, the respect has to be there both ways.
Right.
So it don't matter you pay the bills or not, and they are staying under your roof, you still have to give them that respect.
Exactly.
You go into their room, you have to knock.
Exactly.
It don't matter whether the age is 17, teenager, you have to knock. When you do that, you get back.
Exactly.
Without doing that, you lose your respect as a parent. And also the quality time. I remember sometime a few years back, like sometimes not few years, it still happens. Anytime, like my son or both of them, I have 3, but the other 2. When I come out, they say, "Hi, young lady." When my son mentioned, "Hi, young lady," I know maybe he just want to talk. And sometimes my daughter also, when it comes like, what's up, lady? So there are certain things that when they mention, you know, they just want about anything. Yeah. So when you have that relationship with them, it don't matter what time. Also the time. Whether sometimes I come from all night, I'm tired, or come from work, whatever it is, even 12 midnight. So that we can talk to like morning, like 4 a.m. or whatever it is. And I'm going to work. I have to go leave home like 6. But I said, this time you never get it back.
That's the thing.
You never get those quality time. When you lose it, that's it.
That's it. Wow.
And God forbid something happen, you wish you have, taken that time back, but you can't. So I'm pleading with parents that there are certain things that when our children are home, we shouldn't take it for granted. It don't matter what they are doing, and have time and talk to them. Let them know our culture, so that like we spoke before, my little one is 17. And he used this word, that doesn't make sense. Before, that thing gets to me.
That's right.
But when I get to realize that, that's the way they talk, I'm like, okay, this and that, it doesn't mean what I'm thinking, that I'm not making sense, like I'm something wrong with me. But until we tune into that, we'll always have like argument in the house.
That's true.
So we have to let them know there are certain words that when you use in the African culture or the Ghana culture, it means this, and then they will tell you what they also meant by what they are saying.
Right.
So you always be on the same level. So when they say it, it doesn't bother you as much as you think it will. So even when they go outside, they know the words that they will use.
Right.
They will know because you have told them the reason why they are not supposed to say that, or why when they say that it hurts you. But in their mind, that's not what they meant. So if we parents also will find the time to talk to them and let them know what all those things mean to us, I think it will bring peace in our homes.
That's very, very true. I mean, before we get to the last question, something funny happened this morning when we were having our devotion. So, excuse me, 2 things that African homes we don't want to hear. You guys, and it doesn't make sense. I was hit by 2 of them within a minute, and I had to just check myself. So my daughter, we were doing devotion, and we were like, what do you have to share? And then she wanted to say something. She was like, so you guys, she started, you guys, maybe when you want to do blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I've been telling you not to be using you guys. I said, oh, I'm sorry. And then after the devotion, she was like, so mommy, is it even wrong? We've been having this conversation. Is it wrong? And how should I say it? I know you've been saying it. She calls us mommy, daddy. He said there's a room for mommy, daddy, but I can't say you mommy, daddy. And then we all started laughing. So then I explained to her that, what, we're cool. We have that relationship. She can come and put her arms around me. Hey, how are you doing? And all of that. I'm like, I want that freedom. It's nice. If you say you guys, we know you respect us. But if another parent sees you saying it, they may probably misinterpret the whole thing to be something else, but we live in a cultural setting. Just like, it made sense to her. So I think as parents, what we are trying to communicate is, trying to explain the rationale behind what we do, instead of just saying it is right or it is wrong. No, we don't do it in our culture. Why don't we do it?
Take time.
Exactly.
And explain.
I don't know, before you wrap up, I also want to be on the period, some of the questions that we ask. We are
Right.
supposed to ask them.
Exactly.
For example, these people develop a habit of like a boy, 18, 20, and up as we are saying, or a girl. Some of them with this personal hygiene and everything. If the parent doesn't come in,
Oh yes. It'll be
yeah,
a problem.
somebody can even stay there for about 2 days and he will never care to change the pants or to take a shower or
That's
something.
true.
Change the bed.
Yeah, or change the bed or something. So some of these questions or some of these things we have to come in and then help them, not necessarily from our cultural background,
Right.
but for the benefit of them, because some of them copy certain things from outside from their
True.
friends,
That's true.
which they think is good for them. You say,
It's not.
so at times they shouldn't be bothered much about the questions. We are trying to put them on the right
That's
footing
right.
and on the right these things. So when some of these questions also come, and if they feel it didn't come at the right time or we are getting too much on their nerves, it's where we have to have a chat,
Exactly.
maybe a chat with them at a certain point in time. My son used to tell me and my wife when we are discussing, as for you, she calls her the mother auntie. We have been calling her auntie all this while. You auntie, whatever I say, I know you will not understand me, so don't bother me, don't come in. I'm talking to daddy. You see, some of these things, they feel their mothers are pressuring them so much, but the mothers care
Care for them.
about, about some of these things. So they should also give us the opportunity to be asking them or directing them in certain situations.
Thank
And
you so much.
To add it, just a word, talking about the eating types of whatever, I do it. I will just personalize it. I do it because my daughter is not with me. She's away and she's in school. And sometimes I will just check on her. I check on her almost every day, like twice. And she keeps warning me, leave me alone. You have to live your life. You have to grow. One time she told me, if you're lonely, go and buy a dog. And I said, oh my God, I'm not lonely. I'm just checking on you. It's a natural instinct that parents have. And I would say, oh, have you eaten? And she'll be like, ah. And I'll be like, oh, I don't mean you are hungry, but I want to find out what you ate. Why? Because I am particular about what she eats for the benefit of her health. And being that science-based girl, she knows the sciences, but not about food. She will consume anything. And I would just call her and say, hey, girl. And she calls, hey, little girl. She calls me little girl. So she'll call me, little girl, what are you talking about? I say, what did you eat? So sometimes I'll sit on the phone and say, tell me what exactly you bought at groceries. And she'll be like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't just handle it. You are too much for me. I said, I shouldn't be too much. I care about you. I want you to be that responsible woman who will cook good food for the husband. And then we'll take it from there with laughing. Yeah. But in the nutshell, what I get from her is she's eating that she eats, and I will tell her, oh, okay, I'm sending this information to you. Read about what you just cooked and see what you get from it. Those are the things that we normally do. As Elder was saying, we do care. And it's not because we are monitoring your life or you will say we are stalking you. She says, you stalking me, right? Because sometimes she will go from classes, before she gets home, like, are you home? Because she comes home very late. I want to be sure you are safe, and I would ask that. So are you stalking me? I'm not stalking you. We want to, yes, we want to show you that we love you and we care about you, and we want you to do the right thing.
Thank you so much. You know,
I have a little concern. Sometimes when they are in their room, you call them, they just ignore you. They won't. And that is our concern too. But we don't know how to go about it. You keep on repeating yourself that you know the distance between you and him or her. She should hear you, but he will tell you that I didn't hear you, and you know this is not true, and it raises your temper. You know, you get hyper because You heard me. Why are you
Right.
telling me that you didn't hear me? And they do that to us, and we accommodate it. And whatever we also do to them is something that, is bringing the war between us. So they should also, consider that
understand
too.
the
That
considerate.
they turn in death yet when we call them, when we need them. They fall on us anytime they want. But when we follow them, even in a calm way, they so,
I think that's another conversation altogether. But the point here is that it should go both ways. Like, even as we want our parents to be there for us and all of that, at the same time, parents too need us. They need us. Like, we think that they are grown and they are happy, they can make themselves happy and all of that. But I think the point you're making here is that we need each other. And in terms of the autonomy, I think, where we came from, it was a culture of communal culture. You can call your child like 20 times a day and they'll take it as love. This is, Western world where autonomy is ruling. So at some point, the child feels like, leave me to lead my life. Which none of their cultures are right. But I think that's where we find a balanced perspective, where we are not stalking too much, but stalking enough to make sure the child is still safe. Because if we keep doing what we are doing, they don't like it. They feel uncomfortable. They go out with their friends at the movies. No one is calling, texting their friend. As for you, Mom, Dad, are you a child? And their friends will be telling them, why? Your friends think you're safe. And then they feel embarrassed. So I think we understand parents come from a good perspective, but I think again that balance is really necessary so that we won't be embarrassing our kids or making them feel as if they are not mature. The last thing I would like to touch on, and I think I want just one person to touch on it because of our time, and then we will wrap up. What would you say to a young person who feels battered, abused, or misunderstood by the extreme assertion of parental authority? Whether we believe it or not, some young people have gone through things, like sometimes even physical abuse, just because parents feel they are right. And maybe parents too had the right intention, but it's rubbed off people roughly. And some young people literally hate their parents. And this is the hot seat that maybe I'll let two people, maybe if we can be brief, talk to a young person who has gone through situations like this, to help find healing for such a person.
I would first say, forgive. It's very unfortunate. It's not acceptable for anyone to go through that has happened. So forgiveness will heal you. So whoever has been battered, abused, neglected, or maltreated, I would like to encourage you to forgive for the first step of healing. And the next thing is, whoever did that to you, go to the person, talk to the person, let them understand how you feel about what they did, and then have a conversation. Let the person understand that you have forgiven them, and also make amends with the person, because parents are parents. Sometimes they did it unconsciously. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't understand. Some people give birth at a very young age, having no skills, and that can lead to that. In the midst of their life frustrations, they can vent all their frustrations on the children or the child. And if you are such a person, please don't blame your parents for that. Forgive them and live in peace with them. Patch up with them. Do not leave home. Get ready before you get out.
Right. Thank you. Get ready before you get out. Uncle Paul, you have the final word.
I think this concern of parents worrying about their children, having this discussion in the Christian context,
Right.
even the old people did it. Abraham made sure there was arranged marriage for his son. David made sure there was arrangement for Solomon to continue. So as parents, it's natural that we'll be concerned.
Right.
My son had his driver's license. There is a car, I could just give it to him, but I'm concerned and worried. And it's like, you want to wait till I'm 30 before you let me drive. Not that I don't want to give him. I'm just concerned. Yeah. And the next thing is those who have been abused and battered. I am telling the kids that even for this conversation going on, there is hope.
Oh, I like that.
Just for the fact that the African parents sitting here discussing this is letting us reflect to know that these things are happening in churches. And if there is any child out there, it is my prayer that when it gets worse, at least in the church setting, approach a pastor, an elder, or somebody you know your parents respect dearly, and you can let them know the situation. And I hope that with the prayers and the help of God, you will come out of this a stronger person. Amen.
Man, there's hope. There's hope. There's hope. If you've lost hope, know that together we can. It could be that things are not going well at home. Don't lose hope. Don't move out. Mama Belinda said what? Be prepared before.
Get ready
Get
before you
ready
get out.
before you get out. And besides that, let's keep praying, trusting God, that God will bring healing to our homes. Once again, thank you all for joining in for this episode of the Battleground. And we want to thank our panelists so much for their insights. God richly bless you. And we'll catch you again on the next episode.